technique, which is a very old one, perhaps about 30 or 40 years old technique, and based on this is again a group technique. So you actually get 3 or 4 people in a room, and then you would give them either the problem statement or the questionnaire. You would ask them to either give the estimate. So for example, your estimates are actually based on this. Remember the planning poker? That actually is based on this concept of Delphi technique, where you actually give them a problem or give them a feature, explain that, and then ask their expert opinion, and they would come back. And then you go through the room in multiple loops till you get a consensus in terms of everybody, or at least majority of the either the decisions or the estimates or whatever that the opinions being expressed. So it's a very old and perhaps time-tested technique, the Delphi technique, which is used in a lot of other approaches right now, like the planning poker that we talked about in the agile context for the Fibonacci estimates. And there is a nominal group technique, is again very one of the tried and tested approaches, where you actually get people, each SME is asked to perform a task. So basically here with NGT, the nominal group technique, you would ask them to do a task, and while they're doing the task, then they would try and give you the description how they would go about doing the particular task, whether it is about drawing a CAD diagram or a CAM diagram, or coming up with a kind of a wireframe, or coming up with a plan for something, or giving an estimate. All of these would be, so they're trying to then come up with that. You would try and ask them questions, and then what happens is you would then have voting done between these different people, and that voting could be out of these 4 or 5 choices, who do you think has got which one do you think is a better one, considering these ideas, these challenges. So you would ask within the experts themselves, and then they would, without actually exposing the names or personal details. So essentially you're voting for the best one amongst the experts. So they then would go through this, and then the one with the highest one would actually go through the weightage. So basically this is again, a consensus is brought in, but this is basically the consensus is based on the voting in terms of the, there are different parameters that you could come up with for the best vote, or is it based on the weightage of something? So you could come up with that depending on the situation, but the fundamental aspect is again is the consensus bring in, and then the group behavior, group dynamics involved, but without engaging the group, all of them in one go. It's not about just throwing something in the air and then asking people to catch it. It's basically you go to one person, you actually try and engage them, explain that, understand their opinions, their views, and then go to the next person, do that. So you all kind of exchange the good points and the bad points amongst all these 5 experts, and then come up with the one solution that perhaps would come through after a few iterations. A very powerful thing called